Good evening and welcome to the January Smyrna Town Council meeting. I will call this meeting to order, and tonight we have Chaplain Warren from the Smyrna Police Department here to do our prayer, and our pledge is going to be done by our town planner, Kevin Rigsby. If you'll stand with me, please.
Our Father, today we acknowledge that you God, and we give thanks for all of your goodness and mercy that you render to us. And as we pray today, oh Father, we ask that you would grant and bless wisdom, your understanding and your knowledge to the council as they take care of Smyrna business, that this place will shine as a beacon of light that many would look to. And thank you again for this day of blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain. Thank you, Kevin. Miss Diane, if you will do roll call.
Councilman Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Morrell.
Present.
Councilwoman Peebles.
Here.
Councilman Short.
Here.
Councilman Sullivan.
Here.
Vice Mayor Atkins. Mayor Reed.
Before we move on to our approval of the minutes, just to let those that are watching on TV and those in the lobby know that we are following COVID protocol, and there is going to be no one here in our audience. They are actually in the lobby, and we do have plexiglass between us, and when we are not seated, we do all have on our masks. So we will now move on to item 3, which is approval or corrections of the minutes of the December 8th, 2020 and December 22nd, 2020 meetings. Are there any additions or corrections that need to be made to the minutes?
Next, motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes pass. We'll now move on to item 4, which is correspondence and communication. Brian, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
What about awards and recognitions?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay. We'll move on to item 6, which is our consent agenda, and these are items that were determined by the town manager to be routine items, but that might not necessarily need discussion. But if there's an item that a council member would like to pull off and discuss individually, we can do that. I do like to always read the consent agenda so the public knows exactly what we're voting on. So item A is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Middle Tennessee Electric for them to share the GIS files related to the street light locations. Item B is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the completed special event application to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers relative to Boat Day and Waterfest event. Item C is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with John Bouchard and Son relative to the 4R lift station upgrade project. Item D is approval of the Smyrna Police Standard Operating Procedures 2-57 LPR policy. Item E is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Allen's Air Care relative to the purchase and installation of an HVAC unit for Fire Station 1. Item F is consideration of the declaration of surplus items. Item G is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract with S&W Contracting Company Incorporated relative to the GIS fiber line relocation on State Route 1, US 41, US 70 South, South Lowry Street, and North Lowry Street project from Jackson Street to Sam Davis Road project. Item H is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute change order number 3 with Jones Brothers Contractors, LLC, relative to the Enon Springs West Extension project. Is there an item that council would like to pull off and discuss individually? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
A motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Item 7, we have 3 items under old business that are public hearings tonight. Our first one is consideration of an ordinance relative to the amendment of the existing Sterling at Stonecrest PUD located on tax map 33, parcel 1.04, containing approximately 6.09 acres. It's requested by Traditions of Smyrna LLC. The property is located at 700 Great Circle, and this is a second reading. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, nothing has changed on this since you looked at it on first reading. This is a PUD amendment to the existing PUD. It only affects one parcel of the overall PUD. It's the part where the Traditions at Smyrna is located, the assisted living facility. The approved PUD for the assisted living site shows a second building similar in scope to the existing 2-story building. The proposed amendment is to change the second building to a 4-story independent living building. It's a 68-unit apartment-like building with 54 one-bedroom units and 14 two-bedroom units. Each unit would have a full kitchen as well as a living area. The proposed building has interior corridors and elevators and an exterior mix of brick and concrete siding, so it is very similar to the existing buildings that are within this PUD. The Planning Commission did review this. All the requirements for the previously approved PUD remain. But there were 3 conditions that were part of the recommendation from the Planning Commission, which was 1, this building is required to comply with the Housing for Older Persons Act. 2, the development will be required to meet all aspects of the adopted fire code with regard to access for the necessary apparatus, which could result in the drive layout and locations of parking changing. This will be reviewed in detail at the site plan review. And additional parking is required as discussed at the Planning Commission meeting, with at least 4 additional spaces being provided for the overall site. And as we discussed on first reading, they've actually, believe they're going to be able to have at least 8 additional spaces. So that's more than what we had discussed at Planning Commission, which will be fine. So again, the Planning Commission did review this and did recommend approval.
Any questions for Kevin on this? Okay, this is a public hearing, and Brian or Diane, you're going to have to let me know if somebody's coming in. Okay.
Nobody coming in.
Nobody to come in, so we will close the public hearing and go to the council for a motion.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next public hearing is consideration of an ordinance relative to the amendment of the existing PRD and rezoning of property located on tax map 54, parcels 51.00 and part of parcel 50.01, containing approximately 15.4 acres. It is requested by Andre Jekyll to amend the existing PRD. It's 14.2 acres, and rezone the PRD to R3, 1.2 acres. The properties are located at 8162 and 8286 Rocky Fork Amable Road, and this is a second reading. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, again, there's nothing changed on this since you looked at it on first reading. This is a request for a couple different things. It's to amend the existing Stewart's Glen PRD. It would also rezone approximately 1.2 acres of the existing PRD zoning back to R3, which is what it was zoned previously. The approved PRD is for 20 single-family lots and 32 townhouses on 15.4 acres. Again, the request is to take 1.2 acres out of that. So you're amending the existing PRD by increasing the density a bit, and you're changing the part of the PRD back to the R3 zoning. The area requested to be removed was approved to be part of the open space for the development. The open space and amenity requirements would still be met with the reduction in open space. Again, the overall layout, number of units, amenities, all other requirements of the approved PRD would not change. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of amending the PRD as well as changing the zoning from PRD to R3 to you. And that's all I have.
Questions for Kevin on this? Okay. Then we will go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Since there's no one here to speak for or against this item, we will close the public hearing and go to the council for a motion.
I move we approve.
The motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll be abstaining there.
Motion passes with one abstention. Our last public hearing tonight is in consideration of an ordinance to amend the Town of Smyrna Municipal Code, Title 8, Alcoholic Beverages, Chapter 3, Retail Sales of Alcoholic Beverages, to allow manufacturing of wine, and this is a second reading. Jeff?
Mayor and Council, this is an amendment that would change Title 8, as you stated, which would allow wineries to operate within the Town of Smyrna, obviously also subject to the zoning ordinance.
Okay, any questions for Jeff on this? Okay, seeing no questions, we will go to the public to see if there is anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and go to the council for a motion.
Motion to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to our new business, and our first item for the Planning Commission report is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation R3 zoning of properties located on Tax Map 54, parcels 4.01 and 5.02, requested by Sammy Said on behalf of Les Lazarus and Don Heichelbeck, containing approximately .8 acres, and its property is located at 6070 Seminary Road, and this is a first reading. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning, an annexation and R3 zoning request for two separate tracts of land that total 0.8 of an acre together. Their property has address at Seminary Road. There is also road frontage on Poplar Wood Road. Land use plan would support medium-density residential development in this area. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R1 and I2 in town and RM in Rutherford County. This area does lie within Consolidated Utility District's boundary for water service, but the town would be providing all other services to this area upon annexation. There is an existing single-family residence on parcel 5.02. The existing fire flow at this location is adequate to meet town standards. Development of these parcels will require a sewer line extension of approximately 200 feet by the developer. The Planning Commission did review this and did recommend it 5-4, 1 against.
Is this the property that's come before us before?
It has. It was requested, these two tracts as well as the parcel directly west of 5.02 was requested to be annexed and zoned, I believe it was C2 or C4, I can't remember exactly. It was a commercial zoning. That's been quite some time ago. And that was, ended up being, I can't recall if the council turned it down or if it was withdrawn because one of the parcel owners did withdraw the request at that time, or do not want to be annexed.
Are we looking at one residential lot here or two?
Well,
How many homes?
It's currently two separate tracts, and my understanding is they want to take those two and reconfigure them into three.
Into three?
Yes.
Will that require subdividing or?
Yes, it will require a subdivision plat to come back to the planning commission, yes, along with the construction plans for the sewer line extension and those type of things.
I guess Mark and Tim would like to hear from you guys as to what the thought process was.
Sure. I can start, Mark. You were right. When we first saw this, this tract of land, it was brought in as commercial, and we did have opposition to it. We had no opposition in the last planning commission concerning that. So that factor one. Factor two is R1 has been the default zoning as when annexation was allowed for the towns to do so. We brought everything in R1. Part of the reason was if there was someone that didn't want to necessarily subdivide and wanted to continue with some type of agricultural, they were allowed to do so. So that's why we looked at the surrounding zoning that you see R1. And finally, I voted in favor of this because everything that we've seen in the way of rezoning here in through this area in this corridor, we've either had it brought to us as PRD or R3. So this is being brought to us in a consistent manner with what we've seen in this area. And again, the fact that it's R3, we've got a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. So it's consistent.
And REM is what in the county?
It's
Very
15
similar to R1.
Yeah.
Similar to R1?
Very similar to R1.
Yeah.
15,000 square foot minimum lot size, yeah.
Mark, anything to add?
No, we just, everything Tim, I think, covered it well. You know, one of the questions I had was, and Kevin answered it, was we'll probably have a driveway coming out on Poplarwood. And so that's a kind of a short and busy little street with all the lights right there. But that one drive didn't concern us too much, so.
And it doesn't really, but any idea why the one that was against? Were they vocal about it?
They were not.
Okay. Okay, questions at all from council?
There's one house on it now, is that correct?
Correct.
And I looked at it on Google Maps, and is it up towards the, I guess, north end? Is that
It's
where
kind of
at?
on it's on parcel 5.02. It does, that's the 6070 Seminary Road address. That's that house. It would actually, it currently has a driveway there. It is on the northern, if you're looking at the total, it would be the northeastern kind of side of the two lots together.
If this stayed in the county, the lots could not be that small, is that correct?
Right, it would have to be 15,000 under their current zoning, yeah. So at 8/10 of an acre, at most you would have would be 2, because I think it's just over, it is over 30,000, but it would not be 45. So that's over an acre. So they could only do 2 lots instead of 3.
Yeah, and with R3 being 10,000, it could only be 3 lots
Right.
maximum anyway.
Right.
So they could take it from 2 to 3 is really all that
Right.
the zoning change does.
Where did it say the sewer was coming from?
Honestly, I don't remember exactly. I know that the sewer that serves the schools goes down Foxland Drive. And it came down Allenville Road and worked its way through there. I don't know exactly where that sewer line is, but that's where Mr. Parker was referenced to 200 feet.
Other questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
I move we approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
It's almost a roll call.
We're a little slow tonight.
Sound like roll call.
That's right. Item 2 is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and R3 zoning of property located on tax map 54, parcel 48.00, requested by Sean Collins on behalf of Well and Hillary S. Altaki.
That's correct, I believe. yes.
Okay, containing approximately 4.8 acres. The property is located at 8706 Rocky Fork, Amaville Road, and this is a first reading. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a tract of land that is at the corner of Rocky Fork, Allenville Road, and the newly constructed and relocated Morton Lane. Land use plan would support medium-density residential development in this area. The surrounding zoning is R3 and PRD, being the Blakeney and Cedar Hills PRDs in town, and RM in Rutherford County. This area does lie within the Consolidated Utility District's boundary for water service, but the town would be providing all other services to this area. There is an existing single-family residence on this parcel. The current fire flow is not adequate to meet town standards, so upgrades would be required prior to any development occurring on this parcel. And there also would have to be a sewer main extended for development to occur as well. The Planning Commission did review this and did recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on this? Tim and Mark, anything?
I abstained on this one, Mayor. Mr. Collins has been a client of mine for some time, and so even though we don't have any development here, it's just that I'd rather remove myself from the conversation.
Okay. Tim,
Very
anything?
similar to the other one, the R3 zoning with our 10,000 square foot lots. It's, again, consistent what we're seeing develop in this area, and very consistent with the, and actually improves upon density being that we're looking at R3 here, and you can see we have PRD that is surrounding it, and the front part there of the track in the corner is an R3 lot. So just, again, from a consistent basis, and we're seeing this is what is developing in this area as we continue to see the R1s being brought to us.
Questions for Kevin or our planning commission members? Seeing no questions, do I have a motion?
I move we approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our third item under new business is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of property located on tax map 270, Group D, parcel 10.00, requested by Huddleston Steel Engineering on behalf of Dr. Egbert Ribeiro to go from C2 to PRD. The property requested to be rezoned contains approximately 2.14 acres and is located on Pinto Drive, and this is a first reading. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request. It's on Pinto Drive, about 400 feet south of the intersection with Eden Springs Road, east. Land use plan would support a mix of office, retail, and multifamily in this area. The surrounding zoning is a mix of R4 and C2. This proposed PRD is for development of 22 townhouses. Access would be from Pinto Drive in 2 locations. The minimum square footage of the townhouses would be 1,100 square feet. Density is about 10.28 units per acre. There was a previous request for this parcel and for this development, which had 27 total units, which is about 12.6 units per acre. So this was a reduction in density when it came back. I did attach the pattern book into your packet, which had the layout and utilities and everything with regards to the development there. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this with 3 conditions. One, that a water line will have to be extended from Joyner Drive to serve this development. Gravity sewer will have to connect to the line on Joyner Drive near the proposed detention pond for the development, which is kind of in the northeastern corner. An easement will have to be obtained from the adjoining property owner to achieve that, and that a type C buffer strip is required along all property lines other than along Pinto Drive because of the surrounding zoning being either C2 or R4. I believe that's all that I have.
Tim or Mark, anything?
No, I think when we looked at this, we had this come back to us. It was a little more dense the first time, and it had a little concern with fire apparatus and turnaround ratios and so forth. So they tweaked that for us, and then in looking at the map area around it, it's duplexes and apartments all in that area. So from a land use perspective, it fits. And so I think that's why we decided to go ahead and allow that and approved it.
Anything else?
Again, we went down 5 units. One of the questions I had was, does this support the Lowry Street development, bringing another residential area just, a block or so off the street? And the answer was yes. So I think it's what we're seeing in the way of development and redevelopment that continues to put folks on Lowry in the downtown area as we look toward revitalization.
Anything else?
What's a type C buffer?
It is, I should have refreshed my memory before I give me here. It's 15 feet wide. It has a mix of evergreen trees and shrubs. So it's wider than the typical, what we used to require. We just have one standard. So it is wider than that. It's required anytime you have commercial next to residential or multifamily next to a less dense residential development. So that's why it's really is required on all 3 sides of this development.
Is there a type A and a type B also?
Yeah, type A is what we used to require as anywhere. Type B is a little bit, it's not as much material required in it as far as the
So
landscaping
they're becoming
material.
less,
Yeah, the lower, the A is less than B and B is less than C. Type
Gotcha.
D would be the most intense, and that's basically what a type C buffer requires, but it also has a berm in addition to the landscaping plant and trees and shrubs.
Kevin, do we have a type D as well?
Yeah, that's the type D is what required for the berm, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is primarily just when you have industrial next to residential. I
Right.
mean, it's really where that gets into effect. And of course, the planning commission has the ability to require fencing if that's appropriate, things like that as well, so.
Kevin, offhand, do you know what the density of chalet apartments would be?
I do not know. I know it's an R6 zoning, but I don't, it was built 40-plus years ago. I don't
Right.
know what the exact density was. No, I don't have any.
If you were to
units
take a
there.
stab at it, what would you say?
I would say it's probably higher than this is proposed to be. I would say it's closer to that 13 to 14 per acre would be my guess, based on the number of buildings that are in there, and they're two-story units, or two-story buildings with multiple units on each building, or each floor, or rather.
Are they rental? Are they rental units?
These will be for sale units. And there will be a third-party HOA to manage the open space. Of course, all the open space requirements we have. This is a small development, so it's not as intense with regards to amenities, but there's playground areas and dog parks and things like that within this development as well.
1 and 2 bedroom?
2 and 3.
I think they're 2 and 3.
1 and 3?
They're 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
They're 2 and 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, it says 8 2-bedroom and 14 3-bedroom.
Okay.
So Kevin, you've gotten, so Chief has looked at this from a fire perspective and everything is okay with that? And secondly, it meets the open space requirements? There's no issues there?
Yes. And when they reduce the density of 5 units, I mean, it helps a couple of things. As I said the other night at the planning commission, it helps the parking, because the amount of parking they're providing is roughly the same as what they had before, so that gives you more parking. And also, the other big thing I like about it, what they did, it wasn't, instead of not just the 5 units, but they removed 3 units in an area that where the amenity package was going to be shown, so that helps that. And also the other 2 units that they removed were in the building along Pinto Drive, and then the building that's on the, you will be on the right side as you go into the development. They took out a building or a unit in the middle, so it broke those up. So it's not one long continuous 11-unit building or 9-unit building now. They broke those up, so I think this is certainly a better project than what we had before us the first time it was submitted.
And so Chief has said fire trucks can get in and out and there's no issues?
Yeah.
Okay.
Assistant Chief Lawrence was involved in our review on this, yes.
Are these planned to be for sale or for rent?
They're for sale.
Other questions? Seeing no other questions, do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our last item under new business is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of properties located on tax map 28, parcels 116.00 and 117.00 to go from R1 to C2. It's requested by James Victory on behalf of Fruitwood Properties LLC. The properties requested to be rezoned contain approximately 2.79 acres and are located at 1896 and 1907 Rock Springs Road, and this is a first reading.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request. These parcels are zoned R1 currently, and they've been requested to be rezoned C2. They are both along Rock Springs Road, about 900 feet east of the intersection with Stonecrest Parkway. The land use plan would support an office, retail, multifamily mix here in this area. Surrounding zoning is R1 and C2. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval. There's a existing single-family residence on both of these tracts that would be removed when they're developed, I'm sure. There's nothing proposed at this time that I'm aware of for development here. This is really just to get the commercial zoning to be able to market it similar to other parcels in this area on the north side of Rock Springs Road, so.
I would recommend, if you have not driven down that part of Rock Springs Road in the last little bit, that you do, because it is really changing. So, do we have questions for Kevin or our planning commission members?
I think you just said that you're not aware of any development plans at this time.
I'm not.
When I first saw this, we generally are pretty conservative with C2 in the town. And when I saw C2, that was my first thought, is what's being planned. But seeing the map, I mean, C2 fits in this area if there's anywhere, since it's already next door to at least half the properties covered by or border C2 already. And then there's C2 on the other side, but C2 is always easier if you know what's going there. It makes me a little nervous because it's pretty much the wide open zoning.
Or the hospital over there, there's been so much demand for that type of, not to say that'll be what it is, but I think when something does end up coming to the planning commission, whether it's me and Tim on this body or later on somebody else, they'll be able to see that land use is a fit. And the proper size for the properties over there, it's large enough to do a C2. A year or so ago, I think we took some action in protecting what C2 could be versus what was under the umbrella of C2 at the time. So we've sort of cleaned that idea up too. But I agree with everything you said. It's sort of a medical, we're seeing a lot of dental, eye care, optometry, doctor care, filtrating into that area because of the hospital.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B is our packaged liquor board report, and there were no applications for the town council to consider at this time. Item 9 is status reports. Brian, anything? And item 10, we get to announcements. Miss Diane, anything?
No, ma'am, have nothing.
Brian?
Mayor and Council, I have a couple things I'd like to share tonight. I know several of you were reached out by a couple of folks in the community related to blasting information, and just wanted to share this evening, and then we'll also make sure that this is something that we're putting in the programming on Channel 3 for the citizens to know. We've got a lot of construction going on. There's several large water projects and a couple of sewer projects, and most of the time you're going to have some blasting involved in these projects. The town of Smyrna does not issue permits, nor does the town oversee blasting in the corporation city limits. State of Tennessee Fire Marshal's Office does review blasting applications, oversees blasting complaints and those kind of things, and that Fire Marshal's Office in this region, the number is associated here at 615-741-7190. And then the town of Smyrna has time restrictions on blasting, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and no blasting is allowed on Sunday. One caveat to this is we do ask when people are in town, the blasting contractors do have to come in and get a permit through our codes department, so that when we do have issues with blasting problems, we know who to track as far as who's responsible. But the fire marshal's office is the one that actually issues the blasting permit. So just want to make the public aware of that, and also share that information, as we go forward if there's any issues. Any questions on that?
No, but I'm glad that you did that, because I think all of us probably have been getting calls or emails or texts in the last little bit, so thanks
And as those come forward, if you'll just forward them to my office, we'll work with the, and I will tell you, we've had a success with one gentleman that reached out to the council over the weekend. The developer has acknowledged that there is some recordings that shows that there was some issues, and they're stepping up to the plate.
Great.
So taking care of that. The second thing I wanted to, so I don't sound like I'm on a soapbox tonight, but we've had several calls to the town manager's office. I think several of the folks on the council have had comments about this. We're seeing a lot of litter. We're seeing a lot of dumping. I don't know why people think that if you can't get into the convenience center or to the dump, that the best thing to do is leave your couch or your mattress on the side of the road and somebody will pick it up for you. But we're also seeing just trash in general on the sides of the street. Unfortunately, I think what happens is this time of the year, we're not mowing, and sometimes the mowers are helping mulch some of that stuff up for us, and it's not happening. We're doing the best we can to keep up with the cleanup, but just, want to remind people, love where you live, and to keep a bag in your car to put your trash in, stop throwing your food on the side of the road. When you stop to get gas at just about every service station I stop at, it's a trash stop for me as well. I move all the trash and the cups out of my car into the trash receptacles. I will tell you, we've had some issues, and this has been pointed out. Some of our garbage collection folks maybe are not meeting the expectations that the town has. We have talked to those companies, and going forward, the police department will be watching for those as well, and we do have the opportunity to write a ticket if we see those trucks littering the streets. It's litter if it's coming out of a garbage truck, it's litter if it's coming out of your vehicle. And we will be enforcing those standards. Have a little pride in where we live and take care of our highways. Also wanted to point out that there is an Adopt a Highway program through the state of Tennessee that we participate in. So if anybody is interested, any company is interested in helping us with those efforts, you can reach out to Tom Rose in the engineering department, and or by going to the nobodytrashtennessee.com, and we can get you signed up. So just wanted to point that out. A personal point of privilege here. Let me get my notes together. As you guys know, Christmas Day, we had an event in downtown Nashville that messed up a lot of things, especially for our friends in downtown Nashville, but it also affected us. Because of the bombing in Nashville, we had some issues with our 911 service and with our AT&T service across the town. I know it affected the hospital at Stonecrest and several other places. And I just wanted to point out real quick, our police department and our fire department worked very diligently on Christmas Day. Several people came out Christmas Day to get our operations up and transferred over to another line so that we could work around the 911. We did have for about a week where with 911 we couldn't pinpoint where you were like we like to do through the GIS system in case there's issues, but we were able to maneuver. We were back up and running in about 4 hours. And I know this seems long, but I just want to show some appreciation to some of the people that were out there that day because they went well above and beyond. But Chief Kevin Arnold, Chief Bill Culberson, Captain John Lear, Detective James Scott, our dispatch supervisors, Deanna Patton, Judy Ross, Jamie Gersleman, dispatchers Jolene Nodine, Brian Arnett, Julie Little, Megan Cox, Eli Irwin, Lindsay Clemens, Latasha Parker Miles, Abby Jones, and Claire Fultz. I tell you, those folks did a yeoman's job that day, taking care of our community, getting us back up and working. So thank you to everybody that put in that extra effort. On Christmas Day, we've acknowledged a lot of people have to work for the town to keep everything running, but these people did a lot extra that day to keep us safe.
Well, and Brian, I also want to add to that the stuff you did as well, because you were on top of it right from the beginning and kept us updated, and we appreciate that. And not only did our people here in the town of Smyrna jump on it, but it was definitely a county-wide effort.
Absolutely.
And we're really blessed to live in the community in which we live in, and those individuals are willing to step up, and that includes you, so we appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Another thing I want to point out, we are a collection agent this year for the United Way's baby shower. We'll be collecting babies' items, onesies, diapers, bottles, baby wipes, blankets, those type of things, working in partnership with the Tennessee Department of Health. We've had several people already drop some things off, but you can come into the town office here. We have a collection right here at the front counter. So if you would like to participate in that and help us with the needs in our community, please feel free to do so. And the last thing I have, unfortunately, I have to share with you, again, the loss of one of our employees, family members, Keith Weatherly, who works for us at the wastewater treatment plant. Unfortunately, his brother passed away this week, and our condolences go out to that family, and I know they would covet our prayers during this time. And Mayor and Council, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Jeff?
Have nothing, Mayor.
Raquel?
First, I want to say thank you to everyone who did serve during the Christmas time with the situation, and also, Brian, thank you for all that you did to keep us abreast of everything that was happening. condolences to the Weatherly family. I'd also like to extend my condolences to the Wright and Burroughs family, who have lost a loved one this week as well. And Happy New Year to everyone. And lastly, I'd like to say happy early birthday to my son Gabriel, who will be turning 13 on the 17th. So,
Teenager.
yeah.
Wow.
He gets the car keys, doesn't he? I'm pulling for you, Gabriel, if you want.
Okay. HG?
Also, condolences to Rita and her family, and also the Davenport family. But, since the holidays are past, and I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday, the crisis for small businesses has not passed. We still need to shop local, and hope that the small businesses do survive what we are going through these days. As always, through the times of the COVID, through the times of the political upheaval, everyone should be kind.
Now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
Tim?
Yeah, my condolences to the Weatherly family and the other families that were mentioned, and happy birthday, Gabe. I'm still counting on those tickets to the Olympics when you're there in gymnastics, so make sure your mother takes care of you tonight.
Anything else?
Nope.
Jerry?
Okay, also, as they've mentioned, my condolences to the Weatherly family as well. You guys are in our thoughts and prayers. And as has been mentioned before, thanks to those that helped out around Christmas time. I know it's tough to be away from family, and just to step up and do that is really appreciative. And thank you, Brian, for all you do. Happy birthday to Gabe as well. And I've had, since the last time we've met, my son Trenton had a birthday on the 27th. Happy birthday to him. My wife Patty had a birthday on January the 1st. Happy birthday to her. And Tyler has a birthday coming up on Friday, so happy birthday to him. And it's been rough on a guy that's on a fixed income, I want you to know.
You've got to save up. Oh. Anything else, Jerry?
That's all.
Okay. Steve?
Obviously, welcome to 2021. I heard somebody describe 2020 as a dumpster fire this week, and I think that's a good explanation of the year. So I'm hoping and praying that 2021 is a little better for all of us. So I think it'll be what we make it. Also wanted to make sure all of you are aware, I know it seems a little early, but we have our first tournament of 2021 coming to town next weekend. It's called the Winter Nationals. It is a national invitational by One Nation, and it will be hosted at both Cane Ridge and Volunteer Park here in Smyrna. We currently have 56 teams signed up. Softball. It includes Tennessee, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Kentucky, South Carolina, Ohio, already said them, Pennsylvania. I'm reading the list here. I think that's it. That's 8 or 9 states that will be represented, Michigan, that will be here in town, folks from those towns.
Won't bother those people from Michigan.
No, well, I think they all think they're coming to warmer weather. I don't think they realize. The host hotels, we have 4 host hotels, which are all located on or around Sam Ridley. Talked to some of those recently, those coordinators, and they're filling up quickly. So it's pretty big impact for the community, local impact. HG, you were talking about small business. My expectation is that next Saturday and Sunday, restaurants and gas stations around Sam Ridley might be pretty busy. So if you see some of these folks at local restaurants, be friendly, welcome them to the town, and know that they're helping to pay taxes that we can use for the betterment of our community. So that's all.
Thank you, sir. Mark?
Condolences as well to the Weatherly family and to Keith. This week I just discovered that a past neighbor of mine, when I lived over on Gilbert Drive in Smyrna for many, many years, Bob Sharrock. And most of you probably know some of the kids if you don't know the Sharrocks personally. But Bob passed away. He and Elaine, his wife, were neighbors of mine. They're good folks, and they were married for 67 years. So that in itself is a triumph, isn't it? So passing condolences on to Elaine, to Sue, to Doak, to Kenny and Peggy, to Nancy and to Coy, all the kids. And Bob always could leave a smile on your face. He always had some humor to offer. So we're going to miss Bob in Smyrna, and just want to give my condolences to the entire Sharrock family. Kind of glad, hopefully we're going to start curving out of this pandemic, and maybe by spring things will be looking up and getting better. Let's hope they do. And I am ready for 2021 to get on track, because 2020's hindsight wasn't one any of us were real happy about, but we made it through. And the city and the leadership here at the town with Brian and your crew, all the directors and staff and employees and police and fire, they kept this town running through a tough time. And so just want to say thank you to all of them. That's all I have, Mayor.
Great. It seems like over the last couple of weeks since we met last, there have been so many deaths from people within our community, some COVID-related and some not. So condolences out to all of those citizens who have had a loved one pass away. It's really tough, but extremely tough during the holiday season. I would like to wish everyone a Happy New Year. We are really excited here in the town of Smyrna. We've got lots of good things going on, and lots of things that we see here in the future. A couple of housekeeping items. If you see our Christmas lights still up around the town of Smyrna, it's not because we forgot to take them down. It is because we're supporting the TriStar Stonecrest Medical Center's Lights Up for Heroes campaign. The town is leaving our Christmas lights up through January 31st to symbolically show our gratitude to the frontline healthcare workers that have served us so well throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And I will tell you, I know when it first started, everyone across the country did such a great job of making sure to thank those heroes, because that's what they are. And I think as we've all gotten tired during this, I think some have forgotten to continue to do that. And let me tell you, those that I know that are those frontline workers, they're tired. And hearing job well done and thank you, I think, is the least that we can do. So we'll continue to have our lights up. If your lights are still up at your house, please turn them on in support of those frontline healthcare workers. Next, have you ever considered serving on one of our boards or committees, or wanted to get involved more in the town? Serving on one of our boards is a great way to do that, and we are currently accepting applications. If you are considering serving, we invite you to visit our website at www.townofsmyrna.org to learn more about each board and committee. It talks a little bit about what each board does, the days that they meet, and all you have to do is fill out an application. At our January meeting, we try to put people on filling those vacancies. We try to get everybody that wants to be involved. We aren't always able to do that, but we do encourage you to go online and fill out an application. You do need to be a Smyrna resident to do that. There's only one board that I know of, which is the Parks and Recreation Board, where we have one member that is a non-resident. But if you're willing to commit your time to attend meetings and be a part of making choices for our community, we encourage you to fill out an application. Brian, I know that you had one other thing before we're done.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize that I skipped over this in my haste, but I want to remind everybody that Monday, January the 18th, Martin Luther King Day, the town offices and different places around the town will be closed. We'll still have the golf course open, of course, and then all of our police, fire, parks will be open, and our wastewater and water folks will be out at the plant making sure that we have good drinking water and everything happens the way we need to in our homes, so. But January 18th, Town Hall will be closed.
Okay. Anything else? Council, anything else? If nothing else, then we are adjourned.